Welcome to Counselor's Corner. I'm Jeremy Counseller, Dean of Baylor Law School, and I am delighted to be joined today by Asna Poonawalla, a third-year law student now, currently in our famous/infamous practice court program, which is, for people who don't know, a required third-year, 6-month program that focuses on evidence, procedure, and advocacy. How is that going for you, Asna?
You know, I was really scared coming into it. There isn't really a lot of information about what the program looks like other than that it's incredibly scary, apparently. So I was really nervous coming into it. And the first, I think, week took a lot of adjusting. But once that adjustment period kind of finished, it suddenly became a lot more manageable than I thought it would be. So at the moment, it's going okay.
Okay. So where are you in the practice court process? Like, what sorts of things are you doing right now?
At the moment, we're preparing for our big trial. So we just submitted our petitions last Friday.
What's a petition? Some people who are listening may not know. You're just throwing these legal terms out now. They've been ingrained on your soul, but what's a petition?
The petition is essentially the first pleading to the court in Texas that essentially kickstarts the lawsuit. So Tony's my PC partner. We just were plaintiffs in this
So you pretend
trial.
sued somebody?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we pretend sued a hospital for medical malpractice. And right now we are preparing for our depositions, which are going to happen the week after Thanksgiving. So at the moment, we're just going through all of the materials that we've been provided to kind of create like a timeline of the case and really prepare what we think that the other side is going to depose our witnesses on, and also try to come up with things that we want to depose their witnesses on.
How do you feel about how you talked about it? It can be a little scary, and I think that's a common, especially at the beginning or right before practice court starts. But how do you feel in terms of what you're learning?
I think it's all really hands-on and practical. It takes everything that we've learned in the past, like through 1L and 2L, and really puts it all together. So these cases that we're looking at aren't really limited to just contracts or just torts or just crim law. It can be really anything. Like, at the moment in PC3, we're learning about striking jurors for cause, or if we have a panel and what if a opposing counsel strikes all of the people of color? What do you do? And some of these cases, you immediately object and make a Batson challenge.
This interview is turning into a quiz, and I am sorry for that, but you are doing wonderfully well.
Thank you. Do tell Professor Tilly that. But the cases, what's really interesting to me, aren't just limited to torts or even just civil cases. It's also criminal cases. So we're learning about how Batson impacts whether it's applicable in civil cases or criminal cases. And before you ask, it applies to both.
Very good. Very good. So you've passed, which means we can continue the interview. One of the things you have been really involved with here at the law school is in our advocacy program. So talk about your experiences in our advocacy program, what all things you've done. So
I've done both moot court and mock trial program competitions. I started off with the in-school moot court tournament. And then that summer, I attended my first moot court competition out of state, which was in Florida for the Zemmer competition. After that, I was put on a mock trial team. And so we did Stetson, which was it was a pretrial competition that really put together both moot court and mock trial. We didn't do opening statements, but we did do directs and cross-examinations, and then ended with an oral argument for a motion to suppress. So it really put both of those together. And then after that, I did one more moot court competition and a couple of mock trial competitions.
And I think you just recently competed in the Tournament of Champions, which is one of the top tournaments around, and your coach is Professor Little. Did he cause any problems or anything?
Not really.
I'm sorry to hear that. I continue to hope that he would, but it seems he's good at his job, despite me trying to find out otherwise. Okay, so shifting gears here a little bit, you have it seems your journey to law school, especially right before law school, involves some tragedy, some real tragedy, and I'm aware of that. Can you share, if you're comfortable, what that was and how maybe it's influenced your course in life and law school?
Yeah. So in 2020, somebody murdered my father, and I wasn't even in the state when it happened. I was in New York with my brother, and we got a call, and my mother said that she was on the phone with Dad, and Dad suddenly just said to call 911, and then the phone cut. And she and my sister immediately drove over to the store, and when they got there, the police said that Dad was okay and inside of the store, and that they were asking him questions, and that it was an African-American male that had been shot. And so my mom was concerned about Dad's health. Dad had diabetes and some other health problems. So she was like, can you at least give him the medicine? And they were like, no. Later on, the coroner came and then asked for a picture of Dad and then told my mom that it was Dad. So it was really hard because we didn't know what happened. We didn't know why it happened. He had the keys to the car were right there. The keys to the store were literally in the door.
This is a store he owned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We had one gas station growing up. And so the keys to the store were literally in the lock, cash in the register, cash in his pocket, none of it gone. So it wasn't a robbery, and we didn't know why it happened. We didn't know how it happened. We didn't know who did it. We just know that one minute he was there and the next he wasn't. And despite their best efforts, the police couldn't figure it out. So to this day, we have no idea why it happened. And at this point in my life, I knew that I wanted to go to law school. I knew that I wanted to study law, but I didn't know what I wanted to do beyond that. And this moment in my life really gave me trajectory. It told me exactly what I wanted to do. And there were some other factors going into why I wanted to become a lawyer, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do with being a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And after this, after having suffered, I think, one of the gravest injustices of my life, to not know or have my story completed or really even be heard, and to also be robbed of all of the memories that I would want with my dad, I realized that what I want to do is help other voices be heard. I want to give them the tools to advocate for themselves, to give them the justice that my family couldn't receive and will likely never receive. And so I came to law school knowing that really there were only two options. It was either I would become a prosecutor or I would do some type of employment law for, employment discrimination, helping victims be heard, have their voices told. And then my first summer, I interned at a DA's office, and then that two-path kind of converged into one. And I found the work to be so fulfilling and so deeply important to me that I was going to my internship every day thinking, like, I can't believe that one day I'm going to be paid to do this. Like, I'm going to be paid to help people. And that moment in my life kind of set me on a path that I think not only helps me find comfort in what I experienced, but also to exemplify aspects of my faith that are deeply important to me and kind of help others in a way that I wish I could have been helped.
Yeah. Asna, I'm very sorry. I was aware of this. I'm very sorry for that. But, you're a wonderful legacy for your dad. That's for sure. I'm wondering, as you did the internship, did you get a chance to interact with victims and how that might have helped you? You talked about your faith, but how that might have helped you sympathize even, and much less empathize.
I wasn't able to interact with the victims directly, but vicariously I was able to. So the prosecutor that I was working with would tell me what impact the work that I was doing was going to have on the case and how it was going to help the victims of the cases. And I got to sit in on a lot of trials and kind of see the impact of a trial on the victim themselves. So I worked mainly in the misdemeanor division, but I also got to sit in on a lot of the felony cases, and I got to see, something that I had never really thought about is you always know that children can get hurt, but you never realize that they can also be victims until you see it. And one of the things that when I was sitting in a felony trial, I was looking over and I'm seeing this victim on the stand and I'm watching the impact that this trial is going to have on her. But then I got to see them win the case. I got to see the state win, and I got to see the impact that it had on her family. And I realized that one day I will be able to have that impact.
Yeah. One thing that can get, I think, sometimes lost in law school, at least in the classroom experiences, it's all about the law and how to do things, but really the profession is about people. It's about serving people, and what you're talking about is right on point, that all of this stuff we do at the law school is not an end unto itself. It's about that child victim. It's about that person whose business is at risk. It's about that person who may have been discriminated against in the workplace. So I think what you saw is a really, really important thing for people to know about going to law school and becoming a lawyer. So it sounds like you're going to be an assistant district attorney out of law school. Do you know where in the world you want to be?
I haven't really figured that out yet. I really like the DA's office I've been working at. I worked there for the past 2 summers, and so hopefully they'll have me back, and if they will, I would love to be there.
So speaking of geographic location, you are from Alabama, I think. You came to Texas to go to Baylor, is my understanding.
Yes.
How have you found Texas?
You know,
I'm suddenly a little sorry that I asked.
Growing up in Birmingham, I always told myself, I was like, I'm going to get out of Birmingham. I'm going to go to a bigger city. I'm going to have big city life. It's going to be great. And then I ended up in the very large Waco, Texas. So it's been a fascinating experience to go from a tiny city to an even tinier city. But that being said, I think Waco has a lot of charm to it that a lot of people don't recognize. I think the energy is very similar between Alabama and Texas in that the people are very Southern and very kind and helpful, go out of their way to help you. And I really appreciate that connection. That being said, one thing I don't necessarily like is the hate on Alabama's football team. Roll Tide. So that's the one con I have.
I'm not hating on Alabama's football team right now. Okay. Talk to me about, as you think about your time in law school, is there a moment in class or through an organization you may have been involved in that is sort of when you look back, that was really impactful to me? And maybe it was your time at your internship, but maybe any other that you look back and say that was really impactful.
I think one of the biggest moments that really impacted me personally is the amount of care that the professors have for students is unmeasurable, in my opinion. So we were doing the competition in the internal moot court competition, and my partner was Tony. He's also still my PC partner. And the way that it worked is we were put into different legal writing classes. So he had Professor Tang and I had Professor James for our professors for legal writing. And, we started our competition. We were doing pretty okay. And I remember at the awards ceremony, Professor Tang coming up to me, and I had never had a conversation with her ever in my entire life, not once. And she, comes up to me, she goes, "Hey, Asna, I just want you to know I was rooting for you the whole time. And, I'm so proud of the progress that you made. I know that this was really new for you, and I'm just so proud of you getting this far." And just that one little interaction with Professor Tang made such a big difference in my approach and in my understanding of law school in general, because it always just feels so rough at all times. It just feels very like you're constantly on the go. And to have that moment to kind of step back and be like, no, it's not just in class. It's the professors care about you outside of class too, and they care about your well-being. And Professor Tang, before my competitions, she would give us little care packages, and the way that the professors will go out to bat for you just really changed my law school experience completely.
Yeah. Professor Tang is great, and I think she represents something that everyone in the building feels, is that here the students are number one, and part of number one is to challenge them, right? Because the legal profession is challenging, but also to make sure students know we do care about you, and I think I'm just delighted to hear that about Professor Tang. Okay, now we're moving to the lightning round. Your answers have to be short, or they will end the podcast immediately. In your opinion, what is the best restaurant in Waco?
Saffron.
Good answer. Your favorite TV show of all time?
Grey's Anatomy.
My wife would agree. Your favorite novel or work of nonfiction of all time?
I Am Messenger.
I'll have to follow up on that. But this is the lightning round and I cannot. Do you have a personal motto, scripture or quotation or phrase you draw on for strength, inspiration, or the like?
With hardship comes ease.
Love it. In 15 seconds or less, describe your dream vacation.
Whoa.
10 seconds.
Probably being up in the mountains and going on a hike.
Excellent. Seems achievable. That's good. All right. I understand you may have a question
Yes.
or two for me.
I have 2 questions for you.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. How has being a student and professor at Baylor impacted your approach to being the dean?
I definitely remember being a student. And of course, I've been on the faculty for over 20 years before becoming the dean, 100 and something days ago. I think about Baylor Law School changed my life for the positive, raised the trajectory of my life. And when I look back on my experiences, I never would have, in the moment as a student, thought this is going to be really important for me down the road. But it is. The idea of going through a challenge with other people, with your classmates, with your practice court partner, your moot court partner, those intense experiences, they not only raise the trajectory of your life, but they also form lifelong bonds. And I think that's something that I want to make sure continues to be true. My son, I had this experience. My son went to medical school, and for the first time, he left his hometown, sort of outside of our friends and family and our community here in Waco, and he went to school in a different city. And I was sort of surprised by how worried I was about him, whether he would be okay. And I realized that is an experience that law students have, their family members have. And I remember a couple weeks into medical school, I called him up and I said, "How are you doing?" And he said, "I am challenged, but I am thriving." And that summed up for me what I want for our law students. I want them to be challenged, but I want them to thrive. And those things can be in tension a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. But the main thing is we want to make sure our students are prepared to be successful in the legal profession. And I want the students to say 3 years out, wow, I'm really grateful for my education. That's what I really, really want above all else. Because I am certainly very grateful for what Baylor Law School did for me. I don't think I would have been quite as enthusiastic during law school, because you don't see how it's going to help you. But you don't always see how it's going to help. Sometimes you do. But now I'm just like, wow, it's been so helpful to me. So what's question number 2?
All right.
I droned on there for a bit.
Question number 2 is, having been in our shoes in the past, what advice do you have for current students who are passionate about trial advocacy?
I think you have to, I think you need to do it a lot. I think repetition is key. And I also think you have to be willing to fail. One of the best pieces of advice that I've ever heard. It wasn't even advice. It was just sort of a truism. Came from one of my practice court professors and a mentor of mine, Professor Jerry Powell. He's retired now. But he said the key for trial lawyers, you have to hate failure. You have to hate it, but you can never fear it. And those two things are, again, hard to hold together, but that's really something that the willingness to go fail, the willingness to sort of fall flat on your face in front of your colleagues, in front of a jury, in front of, in mock trial, in front of judges. But you know what that is? That's courage. And courage is really, 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 as you well know, really, really important in a lawyer. Lots of key traits for a great lawyer, but one of them is definitely courage. Asna, thanks so much. We are very proud of you, and you're going to be a great lawyer. You're going to make a big difference out there.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.